Welcome, Drink with James, episode 192. Hope you guys were able to tune in. Last week we did what we call the micro conference. More dorky people might call it a webinar, but I think that word is terrible, so I try to avoid it. We did a micro conference. I went through some data that we had collected, some of which we'll talk about here. I interviewed Risa Lake from DBA and also talked to Grace Atwood and Chriselle Lim and Matt Kobach from New York Stock Exchange. Hour and a half. It's all up on YouTube. I think maybe we messed up the first 5 minutes of audio. But the rest is up on YouTube. It's our last video before this, so click it. You can watch the whole thing now. It's definitely worth your time if you hadn't seen it. We are potentially going to do more of these and keep them a little shorter. I have like 50 questions from influencers right now, so we might be publishing Drink with James more often over the next couple of weeks. Hopefully that is okay. I think last time we kicked this off talking about how influencers have a responsibility to fact check and make sure the things that they're spreading are factually true. Since you have a platform, it is even more important to check that. I think it's also important to understand that with that platform, comes a responsibility to set an example. We've seen a lot of influencers in the last couple of weeks who have caught a lot of heat online for some of their behavior and movements and decisions that they're making. While I'm not going to speak to any of those specifically, I will say that when you have a following, one, you have to be more conscious of the things you do, and you really have to try and put yourself into the shoes of the people who are watching that and try and see your content and what you're doing, your decision making from their shoes. I think that the heat that some of these influencers have caught probably surprised them. But I think if you were more aware of the context of the world and how your actions might be perceived by the greater community, that those wouldn't have come as surprises. And I think that, in the same way I said that it's important for influencers to lead by example in fact-checking the things that they're posting, it's important for them to lead by example in the way that they are living their lives. A lot of people following you, a lot of them who are paying attention to what you're saying, and if you guys take this really seriously, the chance that your followers continue to take it seriously is higher. Okay, so let's move on to some questions. Question number one is, are there more deals during the pandemic or less? Short answer, there's less. We still have new deals coming in. We are still sending offers out to influencers, but significantly less than we have previously. Right now, there's just so much instability in the markets, and brands just don't know if this is going to last 2 weeks or 3 months. And I think because of that uncertainty, they are clamming up and protecting any cash that they have. Right now, if you run a business, cash is absolutely king, and you're having to make the decision between laying people off and running any sort of advertising campaign. And in the short term, the advertising campaign is the thing that's going to be cut. So you have to kind of understand that. I mean, what we've seen so far with influencers is 18% of deals have been canceled, while 60% have been paused or postponed. Generally, I'd say that is reassuring news. I think most of the canceled deals are travel event related. And a lot of brands are saying, hey, we're going to honor that contract we gave. We just need to pause the content for a little while. But I definitely think you should be preparing to get less deals. I said it in the video before. I will say it again. I think this is probably my third time, and it keeps getting more extreme. But as an influencer, I think you should be prepared to make potentially 40 to 50% less money than you made last year, this year. So it is hard out there running a small business. A lot of you are essentially running small businesses. You need to take a look at your expenses, and you need to cut absolutely everything out immediately that is not absolutely necessary to running your business today. you need to cut it out. You have to assume there's a chance that you could make 50, 60, 70% less money this year. Do I sincerely think that will happen? No, I think that there's a slim chance of that happening. But right now is the time to overreact and over-index and save the cash that you have to make sure that you're able to make it through this crisis. So if you're doing this full time, you have to think about cutting costs as quickly as you can. Question number 2 is, I'm concerned about shooting content in the apartment. All I have is an iPhone and a remote. What should I do for sponsored content? I think right now, ideally the whole world that can work at home is working at home. And I think this is the time to be shooting at home with a tripod and your iPhone. Right now I would be really concerned about posting any photo from out in the street. Honestly, if you do, and we've done this on a few campaigns. We had some stuff go live last week where the influencers said, this is a shot from 3 weeks ago, before the lockdown happened. So if you have old content, you can post that. I would caveat it. But I'd lean into that. Everyone's stuck at home. Nobody has access to their photographers potentially. So, this is the time to just do that. And I would reach out to brands, and if you have ongoing partnerships, say, hey, I'm not going to be able to create the kind of quality level of content that I'm used to since I don't have access to my photographer or my videographer. I'm going to shoot this on my phone. Is that okay? Would you like to postpone? Or do you just want me to go ahead? I probably wouldn't even actually give them that option yet. I would shoot it, show it to them and say, hey, this is what I have because of the circumstances. Is this okay? Everybody understands that everyone's at home, resources are different, the world is different, and I think you need to acknowledge that, and I wouldn't be afraid to shoot sponsored content that looks a little less polished than you generally would post. Look at me. I desperately need a haircut. I'm in some shirt I had to order from Uniqlo. We're all making do here. I'm recording the audio on a mic through my iPhone, so everyone is figuring it out now. This is the time to be scrappy. Question 3 is, do I think that doing hashtag ads right now is disrespectful? It's a loaded question. I think that it can be dependent, but I think that for most people's audiences, they want to see sponsored posts, and if you're feeling strange about it, ask your audience. Just do a poll. Say, hey, I've got some sponsored posts coming up. I have the ability to delay them. Should I, or do you guys want to see them? And if your audience says yes, I know Helena from Brooklyn Blonde did this. 91% of her audience said they wanted to see those posts. So if they want to see them, that kind of gives you the permission to do that, to kind of start posting in a way that is a little bit more normal. Now the thing is, and this is something Matt and I talked about in the webinar, you have to read the room. You have to read the tone of the room. Here's an example. I'm filming this and tomorrow is April 1st. Tomorrow is not a day for April Fool's jokes. In my mind, April Fool's doesn't exist this year. Every year brands use it as an opportunity to show how cute and funny and clever they are. Tomorrow is just not the time for that at all, right? And that's reading the room. That's understanding the context which you're operating in. Maybe next year it's going to be different. We can go back to stupid, lame April Fool's jokes that everybody does, which I hate anyway and I think should be banned in general. I digress. But you have to be able to read the room and know if your audience is ready to hear, to see those posts. But again, I encourage you to reach out to them and just ask and see where they're at and include them. This is the time as an influencer or a brand to be building community, not thinking so much about how to grow the community, but how do you go back to the community you have and continue to build it? Last question is, I see a lot of influencers doing Instagram lives. Should I be doing them? As I said in the micro conference, I find Instagram lives kind of boring. I think that if you're going to do it live, there's kind of two things it should be. One, it should either be participatory, right? So, you should have something where the audience is participating in some way. I actually think Instagram Live is not great for that, and that doing something like on Zoom is better because everyone can kind of be there together. But you can do it on Instagram Live. The example I said in the micro conference was a comedian that was doing something with another comedian, and they made up a drinking game around the conversation they were going to have. Certainly fitness classes, cooking, things like that are participatory and can be interesting. I think if you're an influencer with a bigger audience, this is the time to also bring in people who don't have that audience and showcase their skills. If you've got 500,000 Instagram followers and you love the local restaurant down the street from you, well, that's closed right now. Maybe it's time to try and see if you can get in touch with the chef and bring them onto your Instagram and have them do a cooking thing with you, and do kind of a split live thing. It might be time to find a musician that you love that doesn't have a big following and work with them to do a little performance. You can use your platform to elevate talent and provide value. So I think if the Instagram Live isn't going to be participatory in some way, it definitely needs to provide some value. I generally find the kind of like Q&A lives boring. And by the way, we surveyed inside of 4, and we surveyed influencers as well. And in general, vast majority of people find Instagram Lives to be boring and tedious. So just think about that. I do think that because everyone's at home, influencers feel like, oh, I should just be doing this. I see other people doing it. But the fundamentals are the same. You don't hit publish. You don't go live. You don't do anything unless there is some value there. And if the value is just, I'm bored, everyone else is doing this, I'm just going to go say, hey guys, I'm doing a Q&A, like get on live and I'm doing a Q&A tonight. I mean, for me, that's lazy. It's lazy and it's boring, and I just don't think that is what a live event is for. So I think you need to put more effort into it if you're going to do a live, and make sure that it's actually something worth not only watching, but tuning in at a specific time to watch. That is the hard part. We were fortunate enough in our micro conference, we had 2,500 people RSVP. We had over 1,000 people watching it the whole time that we did the conference. We don't have a big reach, but it was focused on providing value for the people who were watching it, not in us making ourselves feel better or filling some void because we're bored or we feel like we have to do this. So fundamentals are the same. Make sure you inspire, entertain, or educate with anything that you publish, especially so for lives. I have 40 more questions here. We'll probably do another video this week. As always, send your questions in, put them in the comments, DM me, email brian@4.co. Whatever you want to do to get questions our way, do that, and we will see you guys soon. Cheers.